Start your engines! The Darkmoon Races mini set is here! And this set zoomed right in here. It was raced to release so quickly that this review is actually coming out probably just as everyone is trying out these cards. And in fact, I was almost contemplating not giving star ratings here because, like, I mean, all these cards are going to be tested out. It's 35 cards, but let me know if the stars improve the experience for you. Essentially, all the classes will be getting 4 cards that they can play, and then there's also 5 neutral cards in the set. So for that reason, I'm going to cover the neutral cards first, because the idea is to cover will these cards have an impact on existing archetypes? And the first place to look at would be neutral. And I'm going to begin with probably one of the most impactful cards of the set, Armor Vendor. Armor Vendor is a 1-mana 1/3 with Battlecry. Give 4 armor to each hero. 5 stars. My control heart sings this happy little girl with the armor. You know, it's armor to each hero, but armor to yourself when you're playing a control deck is way better than armor to the opponent. In fact, when I'm playing a control deck, the value I give to the opponent's health points is almost a 0. So they could gain 30 armor for all I cared. It probably wouldn't really impact the game. That's a 1-mana 1/3 that gains you 4 armor. That's amazing. It's going to keep you alive against aggro. Play this in every control deck. Next up we have Crab Rider. It's a 2-mana 1/4 Murloc with Russian Wind Fury. 1 star. I'm not quite ready to just dismiss it as pack filler, but it's just a card that's only good for stats for the cost with kind of interesting abilities, but those are only combat oriented and you only have 1 attack. Just doesn't seem like it'll work out. Death Warden, 3-mana 2/5, the only epic in the set. Oh, I should also briefly talk about, as an aside, there's 4 legendaries and 1 epic in the set, and everything else is commons and rares. Really cool how you can basically get the whole set for 2,000 gold. But even past that, if you're really scrounging for value, I actually feel like you can probably just... Sorry, Blizzard, you could just simply open some packs, pick up a bunch of the commons and rares, craft a few of the rares, and you'll be good. It's a very affordable mini set, as it turns out. And I was very surprised that there's only 1 epic. Death Warden. 3-mana 2/5, Death Rattles can't trigger. And this is 1 epic, you don't have to get 1 star. A very situational counter card specifically for Death Rattles. And there's a lot of decks out there that don't have Death Rattles in them. So therefore you probably shouldn't put Death Warden in your deck. Moonfang. 5-mana 6/3. Can only take 1 damage at a time. And it's a beast. That's pretty interesting, and I'm gonna give it 2 stars. This is one of those cards where I look at it and I'm like, not entirely sure if I should be doing a card rating, because this will quickly be figured out whether or not it's actually good enough or not. And I know all the decks it's gonna be tried out in. You know, it's gonna be tried out in Guardian Animals decks. It's gonna be tried out in Druid decks in general, which ramp and can perhaps play Ironbark on it immediately. Maybe in Hunter with Beast Energy, you put the Houndmaster on it, stuff like that. Perhaps you just put it in a mid-range deck because it's sturdy enough that it's just good enough to play on the board and just stick there and be super annoying to take out. But at the same time, there are efficient answers to that, such as Shadow Word Death, such as Minefield, such as Blade Storm, such as Penflinger. If you think of it as basically having 2 Divine Shields and being a 6/1, is that good enough? And I think there's enough like random small stuff out there, like 1/1 tokens, lackeys, removal, that maybe Moonfang, maybe. Runaway Blackwing, 9-mana 9/9 dragon. At the end of your turn, deal 9 damage to random enemy minion. 1 star. This is perhaps more interesting than just going 1 star. This is Ragnaros, except it only hits minions. And also, it's a dragon, and also it can hit face. That's pretty sweet, but we're in a meta right now where there's a bunch of small things, which dealing 9 damage to is gross overkill. Playing a slow 9-mana card that doesn't actually impact anything, doesn't do anything if you're ahead, Like, that just might not be good enough. And I'm not gonna say might not be. It's not good enough right now. In some sort of meta where there's a lot of big cards, Runaway Blackwing would actually be a really good answer. Reminding me of the old days where really good answer to Ragnaros was play Ragnaros, because then the Ragnaros might kill the opponent's Ragnaros. You develop a big threat and then kill something at the same time. But I don't see us doing that. Not in this set, at least. Worth mentioning, by the way, that this card is so disgusting in Arena that they have preemptively banned it. Great idea. Alright, let's start off by looking at Demon Hunter cards. And we begin with Illidari Studies. 1 mana, discover an outcast card, your next one costs 1 less. 5 stars for Demon Hunter. And this card actually reminds me a bit of, there's some good memes floating around on the Reddits, subreddits, where there's some subreddits which will be like, hey, I'm creating a Demon Hunter card. And they just take a card and like tune it to be super overpowered because it's Demon Hunter. That reminds me a little bit of this card, where, yeah, it's just a study card, but studies cards have been pretty good because whenever you have spare mana, you just play it, and then, you know, you bank the mana for the future, you usually get a good card. Outcast, the pool of Outcast cards is very small. I believe it's just 11 or 12 cards, so you're gonna very often get some card that gives you some amount of card advantage. But more than that, it can ramp you into Skull of Gul'dan, which is probably the most famous Outcast card. Additionally, when you play Illidari Studies, no matter where it was in your hand, left, middle, or right, you'll get the Outcast card on the right side of your hand, which can immediately be cast for the Outcast effect. It also can be Philosophy. Philosophy, generally not a great Outcast pick, but when you're playing that combo deck, that could be pretty good. Furthermore, having the Philosophy cost 0 mana could make your combo a lot easier. Fellsaber, 4 mana 5/6 demon, can only attack if your hero attacked this turn. 1 star. And the interesting thing is, I'm not entirely sure if a Demon Hunter 4 mana 5/6 demon would see play. So for it to have a restriction like this, that's pretty easy to say it's not going to see play. There's 1 dual class card for every single dual class pairing. Demon Hunter Warlock dual class card, 3 mana 3/4 Lucky Soul Hoarder. Battlecry, shuffle 2 soul fragments into your deck, corrupt, draw a card. I looked at the Soul Demon Hunter deck and found that they don't play that many minions, and they don't actually have that many cards that can corrupt Lucky Soul Hoarder. So I think for this reason, this card is going to see play in the Warlock side, not on the Demon Hunter side. So on the Demon Hunter side, we'll call it 1 star, but different rating on the Warlock side. Demon Hunter Hunter 1 is Fellfire Deadeye. 2 mana 2/3, your hero power costs 1 less. For Demon Hunter, this would make your hero power cost 0. Still, I think I have to give this 2 stars. It's good stats for the cost, but not that good, and the ability is annoying, but not quite scary enough to put it as like a premium 2-drop that ousts the other options that you get in Face Demon Hunter or Hunter. Hunters! Looking at the Fellfire Deadeye, this makes your hero power cost 1, which might be interesting to follow up this turn to play with Face Stalker and hero power, but that's really specific. And I think Face Hunter will find this too slow, and I think Highlander Hunter will not really have the room for this, especially if it's going to be so inconsistent to go Deadeye into Face Stalker. So 2 stars for Hunter as well. The Hunter cards are nothing exceptional. You have Bullet Shot, 2 mana, deal 1 damage to a minion and 2 damage to its neighbors. 1 star. I look at Grievous Bite and I compare the 2 cards. Bullet Shot is sometimes better. It's better in the case that there are 3 minions out there, which is, Hunters just aren't really looking to control stuff right now. And this is a control Hunter card. Saddle Master, 3 mana 3/4. After you play a beast, add a random beast to your hand. 1 star. For a similar idea, Hunter's not really looking to play the value game right now, and this is a value Hunter card. It looks like these both don't fit a Hunter archetype and probably will not create a Hunter archetype. In Hunter/Druid, the dual class card is a Resizing Pouch. 1 mana, discover a card with cost equal to your remaining mana crystals. For both Hunter, and Druid. That's 1 star. Very flexible discover. However, if you pay a 1-mana tax on any card, it makes the card substantially worse, and it's worse the earlier you pay for it. There's enough neutral stuff around that you're not going to consistently be able to fetch something amazing, so it's not a tutor either. Maybe something that might see some experimentation once sets rotate out and the pull of a certain mana cost is a lot lower. Maybe you can rig the resizing pouch to get what you want. It is worth mentioning that resizing pouch always lets you play all of your mana on a turn, but meh, still not good enough. So that analysis goes for both Hunter and Druid. Other Druid cards, we got 3 mana Dreaming Drake, Dragon, and it's a 3/4 with Taunt and Corrupt gain +2/+2. 3 stars! I actually think this card is really interesting, and the 3 stars indicates that I think it'll be in some sort of tier 3 deck. Now that deck does not currently exist, which is why this is a very speculative rating. What decks would I try this out in? Well, there's mid-range Druids. There's definitely Dragon Druids, namely stuff with Breath of Dreams. And there's good old Embiggen Druid, which also has the Breath of Dreams high roll start. Dreaming Drake could be a 7/8 for 4 mana. That's pretty big. But yeah, the dragon tag is really important. Druids lacked the dragon threshold to run Breath of Dreams, and I think this is a very good one for that. The question will be, is a mid-range Druid possible right now? There's a lot of aggro, there's control, there's some combo, but mid-range, there's not that many of them outside of Libram stuff. Arbor Up is another card for a mid-range type archetype of Druid. 3 stars, 5 mana, summon 2/2/2 Treants, give your minions +2/+1. Amazingly, even if you have no board, this is 5 mana, summon 2/4/3s. Gets really, really good if you actually have a board. Seems to fit into Treant decks, spells that cost 5 or more. There's actually a theme for that, where Druids could utilize that. Garden Gnome into Arbor Up is an insane 1/2 punch, and then you can even Aeroponics after you do that. It's an interesting idea. It's just, is this the critical mass that the Treant deck needs, or some sort of token deck needs, in order to actually rise to tier 3 or tier 2? That's about where I think it'll stand, and it's worth trying out in those archetypes for sure. The dual class Druid Shaman card is Guidance. 1 mana, look at 2 spells, add 1 to your hand, or overload 1 to get both. 1 star for both Druid and Shaman. Similar to the idea of resizing pouch, 1 mana to discover a card, a spell in this case, isn't good enough. In this case, you don't even get to discover out of 3, you only get to discover out of 2. Now, on the other hand, you can pay 2 mana to add 2 random spells in your hand, and that's not that bad, but it's not that good. Now, the interesting thing is, this is a little bit of skill testing element, you don't have to pick both. If you're like, no, this other card isn't even worth 1 mana, you can just not take it. Shaman's got Landslide. 2 mana, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. If you're overloaded, deal 1 damage again. 1 star. It's an interesting card with actually a decent number of different applications. There's an Overload Shaman deck out there that's pretty aggressive right now. Maybe that runs Landslide. Control decks might run Landslide. And Landslide does combo with Guidance. So maybe you see the 2 added together. But I just think Landslide does too little to actually be worth it. Worth mentioning is that this is pretty powerful spell damage, and we're going to be reviewing one of the spell damage cards coming up soon, so hang on to that. There's also a Mistrunner card, 5 mana 4/4. Battlecry, give a friendly minion +3/+3, overload 1. So wow, 5 mana, 7/7. Oh, 1 star though. It's actually 6 mana, 7/7 because of the overload 1. It's just not enough stats for the cost is my general idea here. It's kind of like Bone Mare. It's a smaller Bone Mare, but just not enough stats for the cost. Shaman's minions are lacking right now. So I'm not entirely sure what minion the Mist Runner is going to give to your board, which is not necessarily ahead, because since when are Shaman boards ahead, right? And that brings us to Imprisoned Phoenix. The dual class Shaman Mage card, 2 mana, 2/3 elemental, dormant for 2 turns, spell damage +2. 1 star! And I had to think about, alright, so where could this card really see a lot of power? Well, I can imagine that you would perhaps try to play both of these on the turn, and then you would just have them wake up. It would be similar to play Malagos, and then just throw a bunch of spells at the opponent. The problem is, this is competing with the other OTK decks out there. Other one-turn kill decks include, but aren't limited to, the ETC from Warrior and the Lifesteal OTK from the Demon Hunter. And in both of these cases, for both Mage and Shaman, it just seems like the setup requirement is larger for Mage and Shaman. The card draw isn't as good for either Mage or Shaman, but especially in Shaman, there's like no card draw to be seen. And it doesn't even do like enough damage a lot of the time, even with the spell damage +4. So in Imprisoned Phoenix, I do believe you have done your due diligence in testing, and I am comfortable calling that this won't work. Mage got an interesting set of cards. The first one is Glacier Racer. 1 mana, 1/3, spell burst, deal 3 damage to all frozen enemies. 1 star. This is clearly going to try to be used in conjunction with Frost Nova or Blizzard or Ray of Frost or Frostbolt. The main problem is I just don't see this being good enough in a Mage deck to really alter it. Like I mentioned, I don't think Freeze Mage is going to be better than the current OTK decks out there. And Value Mage, I just don't see it right now. Perhaps you would put this into Highlander Mage, but it's like barely on my radar. Conjure Mana Biscuit. 2 mana, add a biscuit to your hand that refreshes 2 mana crystals. 1 star. I just don't see those types of OTK decks beating out the current better OTKs out there. The dual class card for Mage with Rogue is Key Warden Ivory. 5 mana, 4/5, battlecry, discover a dual class spell from any class. Spell burst, get another copy. 1 star, too slow. I think value decks just aren't really working right now for Mage or Rogue. Onyx Mage Scribe being just 1 mana more and 4 health more, you get 2 random spells instead of discovering a dual class spell from any class, but I looked through the dual class spell list and it wasn't that impressive. This one basically requires you not cast it at 5 as well, because you have to spell burst it to get another copy. Good old 5 mana 4/4 Azure Drake used to just draw a card. And this is 5 mana 4/5, discover a card with an upside of like maybe draw another card. And discover a spell is pretty comparable to drawing a card, but in this case, it's just still not good enough. Rogue, though, has some very exciting cards. We start with an exciting card, not necessarily a good one. It's Shenanigans. 2 mana secret. When your opponent draws their second card in a turn, transform it into a banana. And I just don't necessarily think that that's impactful enough to see play. 1 star. You're paying 2 mana to deny your opponent 1 card draw when they're drawing multiple cards, which some decks don't do. But furthermore, it's not just, making them not draw it. It does cause them to destroy it. So if it's a combo deck, sometimes you just win. But they still have a 1 mana +1/+1 banana, which actually is a decent card. Sparkjoy Cheat. 3 mana 3/3 rogue minion with battlecry. If you're holding a secret, cast it and draw a card. 5 stars. This card is getting a lot of hype because it looks like Kirin Tor Mage, except it comes with draw a card. And it basically is. It's 1 less attack. You get your secret played from your hand, but you also get to draw a card on top. Now the rogue secrets are less good than the mage secrets because the rogue secrets cost 2 and the mage secrets cost 3, but I could see a world where Sparkjoy Cheat enables the secret rogue to do substantially better because, you can, instead of playing those secrets for 2 mana, you can now play Sparkjoy Cheat and get the secret in play at the same time. The dual class card for Rogue/Warrior is actually very exciting on both sides. It's Nitro Boost Poison, and for 1 mana, give a minion +2 attack, corrupt, and your weapon. That's incredible. Very easy to corrupt because of 1 mana card. For 1 mana, you have a Tinker's Oil card, except it costs 1 instead of 4. My, how the times have changed. One of the things that's interesting about Nitro Boost Poison is that I believe it works this way. You play your Secret Passage, you get your Nitro Boost Poison as well as some card that costs more than 1. You play the card that costs more than 1, and then the Nitro Boost Poison gets corrupted and therefore not shuffled back with the Secret Passage because, you know, you corrupted it, so it's no longer the same card. That's a good combo, and I think that pushes the Rogue side over the Warrior side. But the Warrior side, you try this out in the Pirate Warrior as well, in some sort of aggressive deck. Warrior gets some interesting cards that both have to deal with armor. Spiked Wheel, it's a 1 mana 0/2 weapon, has +3 attack while your hero has armor. I play a lot of Control Warrior, and I look at this and I'm like, ooh, it's a 1 mana Fiery War Axe. That's really good. It'll let me survive against all these early game decks. And in the perfect world, I'm using the Spiked Wheel to hit a 1/3, which means I can hit 2 1/3s potentially with Spiked Wheel. That's all the very dreamy situation. I still can only give it 4 stars though, because I'm not entirely certain that it's worth having a 2 of in a control deck. Maybe a 1 of. Maybe it won't even make the cut because there will be too many weapons with a Sword Eater. Hard to say. The Ironclad, on the other hand, 3 mana 2/4 mech with Battle Cry. If your hero has armor, gain +2/+2. I gotta give 1 star to, because it's not that common for you to be able to armor up on 2 and then keep that armor into the Ironclad turn. And if you're not playing Ironclad on 3, you're playing it on 5, and then you're playing armor up and then Ironclad, where it's a 3 mana 4/6, but it's actually played on 5, which means it's substantially less good. It gains you 2 armor, but that's whatever. I don't see Spiked Wheel or Ironclad seeing play in aggro decks because aggro decks can't afford to pay the 2 mana to hero power. That's too expensive for them. Warrior Paladin, dual class card. Barricade, for 4 mana, summon a 2/4 guard with Taunt. If it's your only minion, summon another. Barricade's interesting in both of these classes. I'm gonna give that a 3 star. It's 4/8 of stats worth with Taunt on 4 mana. Sure, it has the requirement that you have no minions on the board, but if you're playing a commencement deck for Big Warrior or dual deck for Paladin, you will often not have minions until later. So Barricade is kind of like specially designed to push those decks. That's cool. I like it. In Paladin land, there's Imprisoned Celestial, a 3 mana 4/5 with Dormant for 2 turns. Spellburst, give your minions Divine Shield. This is one of the cards that I had to most agonizingly give 1 star to. Looks kind of cool, but when I really looked into what Paladins could possibly cut from Imprisoned Celestial, I just couldn't find anything. It just doesn't seem quite impactful enough to make a dent into the current Paladin decks, though in the future, after this set, I could see this Celestial showing up in mid-range Paladin decks, assuming that there's ever better stuff than the Libram stuff. And speaking of Libram stuff, my goodness, they did it. They printed another Libram card, and they printed a monster of a Libram card. It's Libram of Judgment, 7 mana 5/3, corrupt, gain lifesteal. 5 stars! What a card! If your discounts from Librams are 3, which I think is typical, that's a 4 mana 5/3, and maybe you can even corrupt this thing, and then it's a 5/3 with lifesteal. The main thing against Libram of Judgment is this goes up against another really good weapon, Hammer of the Naru. Ultimately, it's going to be tried out, and we'll see whether or not it defeats Hammer of the Naru. Obviously, given the rating I've given it, I think it will defeat Hammer of the Naru, and perhaps it'll make room for another, because Hammer of the Naru wasn't necessarily played a 2 of. Paladin Priest dual class card, Rally. 4 mana, resurrect a friendly 1 cost, 2 cost, and 3 cost minion. I actually think of all the cards in this set, this has the biggest potential to be a game changer, and yet it would require a completely new archetype. All I know is if you do manage to actually get the 1, 2, and the 3, the rally will be amazing. But it seems like that might be inconsistent, which is why rally gets a 2-star for me. Worth trying out for sure. Cards that I think aren't worth trying out in Priest would be this Lightsteed. 4 mana 3/6 elemental with your healing effects also give affected minions +2 health. Doesn't seem impactful enough. You could play it and then play Circle of Healing to give all your cards +2 health. And also heal them potentially, but meh, too slow. Dark Inquisitor Zanish, 5 mana 3/5 legendary. Battlecry, reduce the cost of all corrupt cards in your hand and deck by 2. That does make all the corrupt cards much easier to play as well, but 1 star, there's no way that would actually be a good deck. Corrupt Priest is nowhere on the radar right now, and to rely on 1 legendary to like actually make the card operate, that seems like a pipe dream. Now this card though, Hysteria. This I think is one of the best cards in the set. 3 mana for the dual class Priest and Warlock spell. Choose a minion, it attacks random minions until it dies. 5 stars! That's like a mass Hysteria, except just single Hysteria. With the possibility that Hysteria is better than mass Hysteria. Why? Because with mass Hysteria, sometimes the 2 small minions would kill each other and then leave the big minion alone. With Hysteria, you target the big minion and the big minion kills 2 of the small minions and then dies in the process. That's actually better than mass Hysteria. So that's 3 mana for potentially a board clear when you cast it on their big thing. And almost always kills some stuff, unless they only have 1 minion, in which case Hysteria isn't very good. But I think it's a really good AoE card. Expect to see that and try to play around it in Control Priest and Control Warlock. For Warlock, there's Backfire. 3 mana, draw 3 cards, deal 3 damage to your hero. 4 stars on Backfire. So many cards, and only 3 mana. There is some extent that you'll put too many cards in your deck that deal damage to your hero. Maybe Backfire is a little too much, alongside of course your life tap. Backfire is more efficient than life tap, but not by that much more efficient. Where it really shines is when you need lots of cards, and life tap of 1 a turn just isn't enough. You might do that in a deck with smaller cards, like your usual zoo. Envoy Rustwix is a 5 mana 5/4 demon with Death Rattle. Shuffle 3 random prime legendary minions into your deck. 1 star. Value decks just aren't in a good spot right now. They get out-aggroed, out-controlled, out-comboed. And Envoy Rustwix, that's slow for its cost and it provides value, slow value. And that's just too slow. And that finally brings us back to Lucky Soul Hoarder. We've rotated through all the classes. Like I mentioned, I think this is the card that will see play in Warlock, but not Demon Hunter. You put this in your Control Warlock, your usual Ticketus deck, your Yasharaj and Ticketus stuff. Get yourself more healing, get yourself more drawing, get yourself more Soul Fragments, so maybe you can run more of the Soul Fragment cards. So, vroom vroom! I hope you all are enjoying this expansion, this mini expansion right now. I'm looking forward to joining the rat race and trying out these new cards. See you there!